So every morning at daybreak, when the chickens are most active, animals all get up at a different time. Chickens are the first to get up, then cows, then pigs. They're the latest risers.
How early do they get up?
Chickens?
Yeah.
Oh, chickens before you want to wake up.
Okay.
In other words,
before sunrise.
Before sunrise. At the first streaks of light, they're up and running.
Okay.
So we come up then at early daybreak, and you just slip a dolly under here, and that gets it up off the ground, and then take the feeder out, and then the birds just walk up the field to the next spot. And they get a brand new
feeding patch,
a brand new salad bar, and a brand new patch of bugs. But what this does is it stimulates the ingestion of green material. Everything that we do here at Polyface is to stimulate the amount of salad bar that the different animals get. All animals will eat a certain amount of their diet in fresh green material. And so the daily move actually gets them to ingest way more than if you gave them a large area for several days. They wouldn't get that freshness. That's why we call it a salad bar, is because it's fresh all the time.
When they're pecking, are they actually pecking for insects or a combination of insects and
grass and insects? Yeah, both grass and insects.
And then obviously the rotating this, actually their manure helps the whole process and fertilizes everything.
Absolutely. You can see where the manure was, and you can count back. There's 1 day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there you are. Now,
and when will they get their next cycle? When will they go over
next year?
Oh, it's
the whole year. It's a
whole year.
It's one day a year deal.
And you just keep track of that. You got a system so that you can.
Yeah. There's a 1 day a year deal.
Wow.
And the reason for that is because the manure load is so heavy that we would overload the soil's metabolic capacity to convert it into carbon if we did too much. I mean, as far as the soil's concerned, too much nitrogen is too much nitrogen, whether it's organic, inorganic, or otherwise. And so what's interesting is that at this density, which is 75 birds per 120 square feet for a day times the number of days, it actually comes out to every 500 birds covers an acre in their time. And interestingly, that's exactly the amount of nitrogen that the soil can metabolize. It's also exactly the amount of ground that it takes to grow the grain to feed them.
Wow, it's all balanced out.
All balanced out. And if you put 10 more birds or 10 fewer birds, they don't do as well. So there's a kind of a sweet spot there.
Is that something you developed or figured out over time?
Over time, over time. Experimenting, obviously, for a long time. Now, big picture, a couple things going on here. One is, we're standing here amongst 2,000 or more chickens, and there's no smell, no odor. It's this could be done in a backyard. In other words, there's nothing. And so much of modern American agriculture is humanly assaultive. And we think that good farming and good food production should be aesthetically and aromatically, sensually romantic. I mean, it should be something that you like to come and see and be a part of, not something that's repugnant. You have to wear if you have to put on a hazardous material suit and a gas mask to go visit your food, you might not want to eat it. That might not be.
You have to seriously reconsider that.
Another thing that's real good here, the point to make, big picture, is that the whole farm, the infrastructure is portable, which means, I mean, these shelters, if you were on, for example, a piece of land, say, that you were just renting or just using for a season, you can throw these things on a trailer and go up the road to another place. The farm infrastructure becomes very portable. And so that creates a flexibility to use the landscape with different things at different times, at different seasons, so that you don't have everything in one spot all the time.
Sure.
All the time. And another element here is that the infrastructure is cheap. It's expensive. You can see this is just basically scavenged stuff, and it's not expensive. And so that allows for a young person to be able to capitalize into this venture easily. The problem is that when you have large capital-intensive impediments to young people entering farming,
Sure.
if the young people can't get in, the old people can't get out.
Right.
And so that's why the median age of the American farmer is now almost 60 years old, because
It just costs too much.
It costs you. Yeah, if you want to raise a chicken for Tyson, the first thing you have to do is have a $500,000 house
And sign your life away.
and sign your life away.
And just get back to these cages a little bit now. It may not be obvious for everyone watching this that one of the reasons, of course, is that they're caged is so that you can implement the system you develop, but it's also here to protect against predators, because this in an open farm community, there's a lot of predators. So maybe if you could talk about that for a moment.
A lot of things go bump in the night out here.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we go to bed, there are bears and coyotes, foxes, weasels, martins, raccoons, possums, and of course Ariel. There's great horned owls, hawks, and all sorts of things. And so to be able to embed these in a more natural wild setting, we have to be protective of them. And so so the shelter, we call them we used to call them pens, and then the animal writer said that sounds like penitentiary. Well, I was thinking like a playpen. so now we call them shelters. Because that sounds more, nurturing.
And actually, 75% of this shelter is actually sectioned off from the environment too, from rain and from sun.
Exactly. And so we have one open quadrant, which faces south. The closed end faces west, where the winds, westerlies come from. So there's even and so the east gets the early morning sun, which they like the early morning sun. And so even the orientation of this.
Wow.
Even if we started in this field and ran backwards, we would then put the dolly under this end and move them that way. So we orient them to the weather and to the sunshine to be able to maximize the amount of sun and maximize the amount of.
Did you figure that out through experimentation also?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing this. I've had these shelters since I was about 12 years old. So
did you learn from anyone, or?
Well, it was serendipitous. You know how great discoveries often are serendipitous. On our way going somewhere else, we encounter this. And so, as a little child, when we came to the farm, Dad and Mom put us kids in the car one day. I was, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And one Sunday afternoon, and we went up somewhere. I don't even know where, and Mom can't remember either. But we went up to visit this fella that had A-frames out in his field. I don't know whether they were pigs or chickens or goats or what they were. But anyway, these A-frames, and Dad really got it, the portable element, not just from a hygiene standpoint, but also from a flexibility standpoint. Well, if I build this big confinement facility, what if I don't like it there? Right. Or what if it doesn't work? What if I want to retrofit it,
Sure.
And so this extremely single-use, capital-intensive infrastructure becomes a straitjacket. If you look down the road. And so he came back from that. My older brother wanted rabbits, and so Dad conceived of a little 4x8 shelter with 4 quadrants in it for the does, with a mesh floor, and then an 8 by 12 foot shelter, very much like this, like wings on an airplane, going out from the middle body of this thing. And once a week, we would move that forward, and we just pick it all up, move it forward, and then move the 2 wings up and hook them on, and the rabbits could run out into these 4 foot by 12 foot runs, for a week, eat the grass and go on. The problem was the rabbits dig.
Oh yeah, they go under and they're gone.
And if they get out, a chicken, you can kind of, a couple people can run her down and catch her. A rabbit.
There's no way.
So I spent many days as a child, with a cucumber or something under a little box with a stick and a long string, waiting for the rabbit to come on. We'd pull that thing.
Did that ever work?
Oh yeah. We caught many of them, but we tried different things and could not really keep the rabbits in. So finally, we gave up on it and just brought fresh cut stuff to the rabbits. And of course, you never throw anything away. So we took those 2 rabbit shelters, pulled them up in the rafters of the barn, and about 3 years later, when my little fledgling chicken enterprise had outgrown the little chicken house we had and the dirt chicken yard.
Is that still around the same area?
Yeah, here, here at the farm. I said, well, I need bigger chicken facilities. Dad said, well, we've got those 2 rabbit runs out there in the rafters of the barn. Let's pull them down and put chickens in them.
So how many generations has your family been here?
Well, just Mom and Dad bought the farm in 1961. So I'm second generation, and Daniel's third, and his 4 kids are fourth. So we have 4 generations right now on the farm. Mom's a very active 88-year-old, and then Teresa and I, then Daniel and Sherry, and then our grandchildren. So we've got 4 generations on the farm. But so that's kind of how the portable shelter was conceived, as a kind of a salvage after the rabbit thing didn't work. And with the chickens, it's worked
have other
extremely
farmers adopted this model?
Oh yeah, there are thousands.
Is this kind of accepted as a standard way to raise these types
pastured poultry? Yes, I would say so. I wrote the book in 1993, Pastured Poultry Profits, and so that's been almost 20 years now. And it's sold, 70,000 copies. So there's a lot of people, and there's an American Pastured Poultry Producers Association, in the U.S. And so there are thousands of practitioners.
Now this is relatively easy to implement on a farm where you have a lot of land. What is say someone had less land and not a farm? What type of land space requirements for one of these?
Well, one of the beauties, again, if you back up and look big picture at this, one of the beauties of this is that it's scalable.
Okay.
And one of my benchmarks of truth is that when you have a production model that scales up as well as down, then you're onto something that really works. And the beauty of this is, if you wanted a shelter half this size, you got a little backyard.
Okay.
Well, you could raise 30 chickens in one half this size. But the equity. Here's the deal: the equity in this, the value is not in the infrastructure; it's in the management. That's the beauty of this. You don't have to borrow management from a bank. So this can be done with 1 shelter, 2 shelters, half a shelter. It can be scaled up or down at whim. I know a couple years and years ago, an elderly couple in Madison, Wisconsin. They retired. They had a large 1/4-acre backyard. They built 3 of these, raised their chickens, and they became the go-to place for all the kindergartners when they came home from school. They'd come over and sit and watch the chickens, and it was urban agriculture. It was right there. They didn't have to hire chem lawn to keep the lawn up, and it was growing food right there in the city. So this is
So what's the minimum amount
adapted.
of land you would need for half of one of these pens or shelters?
Well, if you ran it, if you said that it was 60 square feet, and you wanted to raise 1 batch of chickens, for your own table, then 60 square feet times 5 weeks, that's 35 days times 60, that's 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
That's, and an acre is 43,000.
So a very small amount, relatively small amount.
Very, very small. And 2,000 square feet is, good night, a lane access and a big garage.
Yeah.
Are not far off of 2,000 square feet.
Would most municipalities give people a challenge for zoning restrictions to do this in their residential area?
Many would, although that hurdle is crumbling.
Really?
There are urban chicken ordinances now all over the place.
Wow.
And one of the beauties of this is that it's so quiet. I mean, these are young birds. There are no roosters. There's no noise. They're not even hens. You know, they're young stock. You can see how quiet they are. You can almost do this, you know, if you had a good relationship with your neighbors.
Sure. Yeah.
You could almost do it on a QT, even if
Right.
it were illegal, and get by with it.
Sure.
And I'm a big one on civil disobedience.
Sure,
I mean, you know, if it's righteous to do, it's righteous to do. You know, who cares what the law says?
What about the roosters? Now, these are male and female birds?
Yes.
So a rooster doesn't start to crow until at what age? When does he become a nuisance?
Oh, yeah, he'd become a nuisance at maybe 4 months.
Okay, 4 months, and these are harvested at 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're not. They're
And do you typically
juveniles.
do you have to cycle these through, because it's like harvesting a crop. I mean, you all harvest all at once. Can you like stage these things so you have them growing every 2 weeks?
We do indeed. We start a batch every 3 weeks.
Okay.
So right now in this field, you can see bigger ones up there.
Oh, okay.
So those are 3 weeks older than these.
Okay.
And then the next batch is in the brooder house.
Okay.
Okay. They haven't come out to the field yet. So we run 8 batches in a season.
Okay.
And what we'll do is, because our chefs want fresh birds every week, all right, what we do is at week 7, we go through and pick out the 10 largest ones in every shelter.
Okay.
At week 7. At week 8, we take just, you know, at will and clean out several. And then at week 9, we harvest the rest of them.
Yeah.
And that doesn't give us an identically sized bird, but it does put it in the ballpark enough that we can take one batch and spread it over 3 weeks and not have to start chicks every single week.
Perfect.
It's a logistical help. One of the interesting things that's happening here is, as you know, so much land is used for, you know, single use.
Right.
You know, dairy farm, beef farm, orchard, even orchard, you know, cherry, apple. You know, we've become an extremely segregated, monospeciated type of agricultural system. And the beauty of this is that on this field where we're standing, we've grazed it with the cows a couple of times, and of course the eggmobile has come behind the cows those times. Now we're running the chickens. We can run turkeys on here. We'll come back with the cows. So we very much integrate the multi-speciation in a synergistic way, not only to increase the productivity of the pasture, because obviously the chickens are fertilizing, growing more grass for the cows, but also to create pathogen cul-de-sacs, if you will, because most of the pathogens don't cross-speciate. So by running different species at different times, you create dead-end hosts for pathogenicity, and it helps to keep any kind of problems down.
So I got a question on the feed. Is it possible for the birds just to live on the grass and insects alone?
No,
or they require, I mean, and what percentage of the diet is grass and insects versus and what type of food are you supplying them?
These are all good questions. These are omnivores. They're not herbivores.
Okay.
Now, you know, herbivores obviously can live on nothing but grass, but omnivores, which are poultry and pigs, can't. And of course, historically, poultry was salvaged from kitchen scraps, which are high in protein, a lot of little meat bits and, you know, vegetable peelings and things like that, high in protein. And so they were essentially recyclers from food waste in the system, because grain was too expensive, grain was too hard, tillage was too difficult, it was too hard to store grain, and didn't have enough left over to feed poultry. And so they're picking up about 15% of their diet off the pasture. The grain supplementation is GMO free, local produced. We get it from local farmers. It's all GMO free, and it's corn and full soybeans, roasted soybeans. We don't extrude. We don't soybean meal. It's the whole bean. Oats, seaweed, kelp meal, and an organic vitamin pack from Fur Trail. And
Is this something you designed yourself?
Yeah, it's a
Over
ration
time.
we designed ourselves over time.
And do you sell that commercially, or you make that
The
available for?
the little mill that we use does sell that commercially.
Oh,
yes,
great.
they are now the go-to place, because the neat thing is they don't use any GMO grains in the whole mill, so nobody can push a wrong button, and
and have a
inadvertently
problem. It
So,
seems like a pretty simple process, relatively low cost for capital investment,
Yes.
and then the chickens are relatively easy to get and a pretty inexpensive
Right.
setup for the feed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost
Yeah.
crazy not to do it.
Yeah, it is.
And, in my view, personally, I think chickens are one of the best foods, and it's a massive part of my diet.
yeah, you said you eat one a week.
One
or
to two a
something?
week.
One
Yeah.
to two a week.
Yeah, and it's the
All
whole
of it.
the
though.
whole chicken.
Not just the boneless, skinless breast.
No. The only thing I throw away are the bones. It's everything. Everything. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the interesting things about this, when you cook a chicken and the broth rises, or the fat rises to the top
Right.
of the broth, some supermarket chicken, that fat that rises gets hard like paraffin. These, it stays soft like vegetable shortening.
And why is that?
Polyunsaturated
Oh, that would
fats.
make sense. Yes.
Polyunsaturated fats.
Yes. Wasn't
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah,
That's
it's
it.
a real difference. So what we do here is, you can see how short the grass is. The cows like longer grass, the chickens like shorter grass, and so we use the cows to prepare the table for the chickens. Because if the grass is long, the chickens tend to not eat it and just mash it over, and then they get dirty because it's not very manure absorptive. So they get dirty, they don't eat it, and so by having the young, very tender forage, that again stimulates the consumption. So by moving them early in the morning, at daybreak when they're the most active and the forage is its crispest, and using the cows to reduce the length of it so they can masticate it easily. All of these things stimulate the ingestion of the green material. So we're all about whatever we can do from a management standpoint, get them to eat more grass.
Now this doesn't look like a typical lawn, but a typical lawn with only one species of grass would actually be not beneficial at all. And isn't there some truth to the fact that the more variety and different species of not vegetables, but plants you have growing on your soil, the better it's going to be for the animal?
Absolutely. I mean, here you've got dock, you've got a nettle, you've got ground ivy, white clover. Here's chicory, which is a nice medic. Here's wide leaf plantain, which is a blood cleanser. Wild carrot, which is very delectable. Of course, here's orchard grass. Here's fescue. What else am I missing here? Here's one, I'm not sure what it is. Dandelion.
Sure, the classic.
Dandelion. So anyway, I mean, just a perusal here. This all looks like the same thing, but it's not. It's a cornucopia of diversity.
And how many different species of plants would you typically have?
I would say that in 120 square feet where that shelter is going to sit, there would typically be at least a dozen different species, if not more like 20. Some of it depends on season, season of the year and when things are. And of course, here's another one. There's narrow leaf plantain. You got wide leaf and narrow leaf. That's your two plantains. And those are blood cleansers. Those are wonderful blood detoxifiers. You can make tea out of those. You can eat them. As well as chickens can eat them, or chickens can eat them, and then you can get the nutritional benefits from the chicken through this. That's the way to eat this.
Much more nutrient dense.
Yes, much more nutrient dense. That's right. Hey, birds. Of course, when people talk about all the time this takes, it takes 1 minute. It takes 1 minute to move one of these, so we can move 5,000 birds in 1 hour, one person. It just doesn't take that much time. Hey, birdies. So these are the older ones, and they'll be 8 weeks old in about 3 days.
Okay.
So there's 21 days difference between these and the ones farther down the hill, and So these guys nearing completion, and they actually become less and less active as they get bigger. You know, they're more active when they're real small, but they put on so much mass they just become
conserving
less.
energy.
Yeah, sumo wrestling. Yeah, you know they've already eaten all the grass they wanted already this morning, but you can see they still nibble at it. But of course they're full. They've gotten fresh feed. They've gotten their move. You know and they've been up for 4 hours now, so they're ready to.
Yeah, little siesta time.
Yeah, a little bit of metabolism and digestion time.
Okay, now a lot of people say that, you know, it's nice as you do this. It's like a little hobby, but you know, it does a scale. Can you feed the world? And what's your response?
Can you really feed the world? All right. Well, the response to that is when you see the picture of the Tyson chicken house, and the industry says, "Wow, look at all these." Chickens that we're growing in this little itty bitty space. What they don't show you are the square miles of grain being produced, maybe on the other side of the world, being shipped there. And they don't show you the square miles of land needed to dispose of the manure. Okay, they present it as if it's some sort of a standalone, self-sufficient.
In factory farming for chickens, do they actually recycle that manure, or is it just buried somewhere?
Oh no, it's normally spread, or like now there's so much of it concentrated in these small areas that they're trying to figure out how to turn into biodiesel fuel and things like that. Manure, which is supposed to be a blessing to the landscape, has now become a toxic liability. But anyway, the point is they present it as if this is some sort of a self-sufficient, autonomous, standalone little structure here, producing all this food. And the fact is, it's completely dependent on these square miles of input and output stuff. So here, if these chickens didn't eat one blade of grass, it would not take one more square foot of land to produce chickens this way than it does in a Tyson chicken house, because the feed to produce them still has to be produced. The manure still has to go on the land. Well, you're seeing all the land the manure goes on. We don't have to haul the manure anywhere. And it's being assimilated right away into the pasture. So this does not take one more square foot of land to produce chickens this way than a Tyson chicken house. What this does is it does require more intelligent caregivers to manage and care for the birds, because it's not a robot in a big house. So it does take more actual people out with the chickens on the landscape. I would say eyes, seeing what's going on here. But as far as land and producing for the world,
and
no difference whatsoever.
And the factor that you didn't address is that normally, in a typical environment, it may take about 1,000 years to create 1 inch of topsoil.
Right.
And yet, when you had this farm about 40 years ago, it was, maybe you can describe what existed with the soil. It was just terrible,
it was gullies.
Right?
It was there were big shale, shale bedrock where the soil had washed away over years of tillage. And
virtually no topsoil.
No topsoil. I mean, there was so little topsoil, we didn't have enough soil to hold up electric fence stakes. Dad had to pour concrete in old car tires, push half-inch pipes in them, and my brother and I were little kids, and we could heave these stanchions off. He'd go along and stick electric fence stakes in them to put up. And over the 50 years, we've built about 8 inches of topsoil, which it's not where it ought to be, but it's a whole lot better than zero, and it's a lot faster than 1,000 years.
Yes. So that's the other side effect, the benefit that you get from seeking to replicate.
Yes.
Growing it the natural rather than the industrialization of factory farming that's typically used to provide food for the U.S.
Yeah. What happens is you get this spin-off of additional benefits that are quite profound. Yeah.
God, it's just when you replicate these natural conditions, they're virtually immune to almost everything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because they're getting everything they need. Every nutrient. Grounding on the earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get some massive doses of electrons, free electrons. Then you get the water, the soil, all these different nutrients in the plants, sunshine, fresh air, insects.
Yeah.